what I want to talk about with this group is right now is the periodization and how we try to plan for our athletes. It may be at the middle school level, academy level, at the pro level, and how we understand how to develop a plan and how we can make sure that we try to follow a plan as much as possible. Obviously, our plan is never going to be concrete because life isn't concrete. So we got to be able to have ebbs and flows as we go through. So our periodization plan is obviously we want to create a comprehensive plan that involves the competition, the training, the recovery to deliver the athlete at a peak time. And we want to have the research says if you take a long-term athletic development, ATLD, is that how do we develop a young player into a pro player? And how many hours does that take? And how are we going to evolve? And how are we going to get to that point to be able to say, we have put in the time and dedication into this athlete. We've developed this athlete through the pyramid in different levels. Now, how do we look down and look at a pro athlete? So let's talk about the higher levels now. And how do we develop that? Okay. The best thing about it kind of gives us some time management. Okay. We want to try to do a semi-annual plan so we know where we are. And we're going to break that plan into training into months, weeks, and days. Okay. Help us organize the volume, intensity, frequency, type of training, competitions, and recovery. I think we struggle greatly on stateside is we struggle really hard with the recovery programs. And when do we involve recovery? Because as parents come and they go to the different things and you all are doing your own different things, parents are like, I'm not paying you to do recovery. I'm paying you to make my player a better player. And how do we get that? But we have to educate and understand as we go through. Okay? Athletes need to have time to train. Okay? Training competition ratios. We compete too much in the States. You can literally go find an L6 every weekend in Florida. We have one, Cambria has one. We have one, we can go all over the state and find the same thing. You can do that all over the country. Okay? So I think we train too much and that develops the burnout, injury. Okay? Because we're always competing. We're not training enough as we're developing kids and into athletes. I think one of the best things that they do in Europe, I spent 3 weeks with Chelsea and 3 weeks with Arsenal, and it was amazing that they only in those 3 weeks I was there at each club, they only competed one time on their academy level. I'm not talking at the top level right now. They only competed one time in the 3 weeks I was there, and they trained every single day. And the ratio of burnout and injury was really, really low because they weren't always trying to compete and peak and get ready for what they were trying to do. It also helps us with the quality of competition and the timing of competitive events. Okay, to serve the need of the athlete, not the needs of the parents and coaches. Okay, parents will get in the all the time. Max, my kid needs to play. Like, let's go. He hasn't played in a week. I need to play. No, this is the plan that we developed, and the reason we developed this plan is to make sure that your athlete, your tennis player, your son, your daughter is doing the right things to be able to achieve a goal in which they're trying to achieve. As coaches, we can never assume that once we develop a plan, that it's the final plan. Okay? Things change. We have to make sure that we can evaluate according to the needs of the athlete and assuring the continual growth. Okay? If we try to say that plan is concrete and they come up with an injury, they get sick, their school gets involved, they get too much school, but our plan says we have to do X, Y, and Z. Well, we can't do X, Y, and Z because they're sick or they are injured. So we got to be able to ebb and flow with our plan. We obviously want to have an idea of what we want to do, but we don't know what things are going to come up. Okay? We see it every single day on the academy. Okay? We can have the best structure. We can have the best plan. We can have the best format, the best practice laid out week after week, timing of competitions, and then somebody pulls their back muscle. Somebody's shoulder hurts. Somebody's elbow hurts. They hit the frame. They're tired. They're sleepy. They're cranky. Okay, but as a coach, we just said, this is what we got to do. So if we are going to do that, what's that going to do to our athlete? What's that feeling going to be? The athlete's going to push you away because they feel like you're not paying attention to what their needs are and how they're trying to achieve different goals. So we always got to keep that in mind of what we're doing. Okay, here at the academy, we're kind of looking at our initiation formation to our advanced, advanced transition to elite. Obviously in the academy, we're sitting down into here. Okay, we have a few players, but now we're talking about like getting to the elite. We'll take Fernando for example. How we develop that process and those things. Lucas, you need to come in here?
Yeah, taking
Okay.
your AED, what is it?
It's next to my stereo cabinet on the left. The big metal cabinet. Sorry. Okay, looking at our pyramid formations. Formation and initiation and formation. Okay, I give you ages of females and males. That doesn't necessarily mean that's to the point. Okay, we all know people mature sooner, later, late group bloomers, early bloomers. Okay, so these are just ideas. Okay, athletes should be able to change fundamental movement skills to fundamental sports skills. Okay, and I use fundamental being FUN should be capitalized. It should be fun. Okay, this is when the kids, you're just introducing the kids to sport, into the game of tennis. This is our golden age of learning. Okay, this is when training and practicing more than competing. Okay, we got to develop the skill sets. We got to develop the need, the technical, the tactical, the physical, and the mental. We got to develop that in a fun environment. Because if it's not fun, what's going to happen? The kids are going to walk away from it. Or their parents are pushing too hard. Okay? I can't remember. It's been at least 7, 8, 9 years ago. We had an 8-year-old boy that was here. He had already played 150 matches. As an 8-year-old. And his dad couldn't figure out why he didn't love tennis. Well, that's not hard. I'll tell you why he doesn't love tennis. Because he's competed 150 times already. That's not how we're going to grow the game and make sure that the kids understand why the game is where it is. Okay? We try not to specialize at this age. Hockey and tennis and golf are incredibly hard because they got to be able to it's an individualized sport, so you got to put the time, energy, and effort into it to be able to do those things. Premature specialization can lead to hazards in later stages of athletic development. Okay, I try my hardest to do something else with the kids, sports-wise. We'll play American football, we'll throw frisbees, let them play soccer, do something that doesn't involve a ball and a racket. Okay, I try to get them involved into different things because I want them to be able to have different movement patterns, different skill sets, different coordination, hand-eye levels. Okay, we talked about all this type of stuff in the course 1. Now, how do we develop that hand-eye coordination? Okay, how do we develop an eye and foot coordination? We got to be able to do other things. Okay, and everything that you can think of is only going to help the game, the tennis game. Okay, we play a silly game of tag, and you would think it's the greatest thing since sliced bread because they're moving, they're jumping, they're cutting, they're trying to weave or capture the flag. Like, how are you going to go get a flag over there in a corner and race back and bring it back to your side without getting tagged? Okay, you would have thought that was like revolutionary games, but like they have so much fun because it's something different. You know, it's just not always that specialization. Okay, this stage ends when the growth spurt begins. Okay, my youngest son is 13. He's grown since July 22nd. He's grown almost 3.5 inches. So he started at like 5'5". He's like 5'8.5" right now. Okay, so he's in that next stage of our athleticism. Okay, our formation and advanced stages. Okay, he's sitting in that 13 to 16 age range. He's that goofy. He can't figure out why he can't do certain things right now. Certain things used to be so easy to him. Now he's like walking like a baby giraffe. And why does that happen? Okay, so we gotta be able to educate our athletes to build an aerobic base, consolidate their sport-specific skills. Okay, you have all seen it. I can promise you 100 times. You're working with a kid and his forehand. You're just grooving his forehand. It looks beautiful. Everything's down to a science, and you love it. And they go away for a week, and they come back, and you're like, "What happened to you? Like, why did you? Like, it was so good." But then you look at him, and you're like, "Oh, he's grown, or he's put on a little bit of weight." Okay, that's part of growing. Just because kids put on a little bit of weight, don't think that they're eating bad or anything like that. Sometimes kids go this way, then they go that way. Or they go that way, then they go and they stretch back out. So we got to realize maybe they're in that growth spurt. Maybe we do have to slow it down, go back to the very basics of what we're trying to do. Maybe they got to work on some hand work. Maybe they're not holding the racket in the proper position. Maybe their grip is way funky because they don't have the strength right now to be able to get the racket back into a good position. Okay? So we need to start working on their strength, okay, their anaerobic lactate system, be able to put stuff in their bodies and see how long they can compete for and how long they can do that for in a very structured environment. Okay, this is the stage where we start to develop the athlete's long-term potential. How do we push long-term, knowing that they are growing through a peak height velocity or a growth spurt? Okay, like I said earlier, the growth spurt will hinder performance like crazy. And the biggest thing that you have to do is be able to explain that to the parents on why that's happening, especially if it's their first child. And all of a sudden, you know, they're out there and you guys are grooving, everything's great and everything's great and everything's great, and then all of a sudden the parents are like, Johnny's playing. I'm like, crap, why is Johnny not playing well? Why is Sally not doing her thing? Well, this is what we've noticed. We've noticed that she's growing a little bit. She's getting a little clumsy. She's starting to do those things. Those clumsiness is going to happen. Okay, because her body doesn't know, because the center of mass was here one day, now it's up here. So the body's trying to figure out how does it get from here to here and still be athletic and still have an idea of where to go. So we have to educate our parents along that as well. Okay, we got to be able to explain the why. Tell them it's gonna come back. Okay, I promise you. My oldest son grew over COVID. All he did was sleep. He grew 6.5 inches. He went from 6'2.5" to almost 6'6". And I was like, dude, I don't know what happened to you. I don't know why you're the way you are right now, but like, figure it back out. And it took him almost 6 months, pardon me, to figure out how to jump again, how to dunk a basketball, because he plays basketball, how to shoot. It took him almost took him 6 months to figure out, oh, I was here, now I'm up here. And how do I run again? How do I stop? How come my knees still hurt? You know, so you gotta be able to explain to your athletes and to your parents, this is gonna happen, this is the reason why it happens. This is our body's going through this. After it gets through its initial peak height velocity, things will change. Your structure will slow down. Then looking at the advanced, okay, now we're pushing towards more competition, it's serious. Okay, now they're starting to play the higher levels, the L3s, the L4s, the nationals, wherever they are all over the world, okay? Looking at what we just had, Eddie Herr and Orange Bowl. Okay, these athletes are not entering a stage that's chosen to specialize in one sport. Okay, they want to excel at the highest level of competition. Now they're in. Now they want to go. Okay, but we haven't quite hit that pro side of that, but they want to play high level college. They want to go move on to the next stages of their life in sport. We need to commit to a high volume, high intensity training throughout the year. There is a need of instruction in topics of nutrition, sports psychology, regeneration, recovery, okay, injury prevention, and injury management. Injury management is probably the most important one. When you get high-level athletes, okay, now these high-level athletes, now what else is getting involved? Agents, other people. Their team has grown. Okay, their team has grown. So now we've got to be able to hit. Maybe they have a nutritionist. Maybe they're vegetarian. Maybe they're a vegan. Maybe they're a fruitarian. So we have all those different things. Okay? So as a coach, as a sports performance coach, fitness coach, I've got to have enough knowledge in those areas to guide them a little bit and then send them off when they get past my realm of education. I can talk to you guys about nutrition all day long, but I can't prescribe you anything because I don't know what your blood type is like. I don't know what you're allergic to. I don't know. That's where we get in trouble with nutrition. I can say, listen, we need to eat a well-balanced, make sure you have some good carbohydrates. Try not to eat any carbohydrates that are man-made. Stay within the, sweet potatoes, red skin potatoes, rice, quinoa, that type of stuff. And we can try to say, hey, look at your plate, have it divided out in this way. We'll make sure we get some good proteins and some good fats. Okay, good, but I'm a vegan. How do I get my protein? Then you're doing homework, right? And then you got to go find. We had two coaches a few years ago. They were 100% vegan all the way through, and I learned so much from them. I had to educate myself because I wasn't around it enough to completely understand why they went the way they went. And so you learn and educate yourself within that stuff. Sports psychology, I think, is huge. mental conditioning, whatever you want, sport and mental coaches, all those different things. I think that's especially an individualized sport, is a huge component of what it is. I mean, as a team, you've got, you're the coach. They have a fitness person. They have a rehab specialist. They have all those things, but they don't have a sports psychologist. And I think that's the most important part to be able to get that. Recovery, regeneration. Okay. Try and talk about it in level 1 a little bit, but I think this is hugely important to be able to have structure within your plan of having time for recovery, an active rest week, recovery weeks, regeneration, to make sure that they are peaking at the right times and allowing them to go through a huge periodization plan and make sure that they're not only getting the physical that they need, they're getting all the technical, the mental, but then they got to make sure that they're recovering, to make sure that they are hitting the aspects in which you want them to hit on a daily basis in your microcycles. And then injury prevention and the injury management. Injury management, we got to be able to know why, what happened, how it happened, and most of the time it's not in our control. They're playing a match and they twist their ankle, they tripped over the line, they slid across the line, they got mad, slammed the racket, hurt their elbow. I've seen it all, like you've seen it all. Like it all happens, but how do we just got to make sure that we can manage that as we go through. And now we're talking about the elite. Now we're training to win. Right? Now we're trying to win major competitions. They're a full-time, 100% bona fide tennis player, athlete. Okay, they're trying to make sure that they get everything they need. Okay, the stages have been developed. We've optimized the skills, the tactics of each athlete. Okay, the athletes now realize their full genetic potential. Their genetic potential. We have to learn how to push that genetic potential as far as we can. Okay, we can't choose their mothers and fathers and how they do those things, but we can try to push them as far as we can. We can try to get every last ounce out of them to be able to maximize and maintain their competitive performance at the highest levels. Okay, so we've got to be able to look at that stage. Look at Fernanda right now, okay? She's going to be here for 3 weeks. If I would have known she had surgery, she had appendicitis, we would have known earlier that she was going through so much before she actually had surgery. She probably 3 weeks, they're trying to figure out what was wrong with her. She was sick, couldn't get it figured out. They couldn't see the appendix and different things along those lines. She had surgery, so she was out for 4 weeks. Then she came right back into here and she's got 3 weeks of training before she leaves to Tokyo to go play to get ready for Australia. Now, as a coach, Emilio, myself, Christo, her other fitness coach in Austin, how do you develop a plan for 3 weeks to make sure that they're ready to roll? Because as soon as Australia hits, what happens? She's off to the races, right? So as a coach, obviously they're going to be gone most of the year. How do you develop another preseason, if you want to call it, or in-season, preseason type work? Okay, the hardest thing to do as a coach is to create a plan. Because in tennis, there's no off season, technically. There really isn't. You can always go find something to play to tune up or do whatever. So you've got to be able to find the plan to help them not create a burnout. Okay? Not create you've got everything lined up. You're going to Australia. You're working yourself back. All right, perfect. She's going to go to Tokyo and she's going to go Brisbane, and then, okay, perfect. So we're trying to gear that up. It was all geared up, and then all of a sudden she got sick and she had to have surgery. So what did that do to your plan? Threw it out the window. You have to start from scratch. Right? So how do you go forward and build those to help them not have horrible, poor results from playing too much? Okay? We can't control the results of the tournament. That's them. Okay? That's part of being an individualized sport, is that you can't control how they play. You can give them everything that could happen in the match. You could even predict, hey, at 30-30, game 1, this is going to happen. You can predict it to the T, but you can't let them make it happen. So we've got to be able to have that plan. Not going to guarantee results, okay? But without one, we might have failures. You need to balance the training, competition, practice, and physical training. The hardest thing for us, like I said, there's no off season. So how do we develop her to move forward to have a great 2023? She had a wonderful 2022. Right, qualified for a couple majors. Went from 1,200 in the world to 100. I don't know what she is right now. 120, 150, somewhere around in there. Okay, and now I think she has the potential to jump up into that top 60. Okay, but how do we plan for that now? Because we thought we had a plan. She got sick, couldn't figure out why she was sick. She had surgery, so that was 4 weeks, and now she's kind of working. Like we couldn't push her right back into 100%, okay? Because we pushed a little too hard last Monday, and she felt ill, okay? But that was also on the diet side of things. She didn't have enough to eat in the morning, okay? But that falling ill, not feeling good, that was a whole day of lost of training. So then we had to back her down and say, all right, perfect. That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do an hour and a half of fitness in the morning. We're gonna take a little break, get some nutrition in you, get some hydration. Then we'll train for about an hour easy in the physical side of things. And then we're gonna do some recovery work and shut you down for the day. Okay, so we're so that's kind of how that first week went. Okay, now this week, I started with her today. We went for an hour and a half. We went fairly hard. She came out and worked with you guys for a little while, and now she's up training with Amelia, working on some different things for another hour and a half. And then I think this afternoon she's gonna go back on the court. So we're trying to ramp her process up as quickly as possible, but not looking at it and going, all right, perfect. We can't fall backwards anymore. Every step we take has got to be up the stairs, and we got to keep continuing to build up the stairs. We can't keep walking down the stairs. So it's one of those things with Amelia and I have been like, all right, perfect. Let's twist this, let's twist that. Let's try to lay out a little bit of a plan, okay? Because we don't know what's going to happen after Australia. So we've got to be able to have that idea and that flexibility to say, perfect. Make sure you're eating well, okay? Make sure you're taking your supplements, okay? Make sure that you are looking, as female athletes, there's a whole nother beast and broad within it. One of my old mentors is Hungarian. I graduated from, I went to IMG and then graduated. He handed me a book. He goes, you must read this. And it was like this thick. Had no cover on it, no pictures, didn't tell me what it was. It was all about female hormones. It took me about 2 years to read it because I'd read about a page and fall asleep. Okay, but like, it helped me tremendously to understand female properties and bodies and how they function, because it's completely different than ours. And if we work with female athletes, we have to understand menstrual cycles and what leads up to it and how it leads afterwards and how they can train and not train and how can they push and be pushed. Okay, and one of the things with Fernanda, she's Mexican and she's very light skinned. She doesn't tan. So she's missing that vitamin D aspect and the iron. So we gotta make sure, like I asked her, I said, what supplements do you take? Oh, I take vitamin C, I take this, I take that. I said, all right, you need to add iron and you need to add vitamin D because she doesn't absorb the sun to get that natural vitamin D from the sun. She wears a ton of sunscreen, which is great. I mean, she wears like a 70 to 75 sunscreen or wears long sleeves or hat. So she's not getting the vitamin D which she needs to create the process of recovery, bone health, immunization, build that immunity system, help her with her surgery. So those are all the type of things that we've got to be able to look at her and say, oh, perfect. How'd you eat breakfast? Perfect. You had 2 eggs? All right, you need to have 2 eggs, a chobani, and some granola, because she wasn't getting any carbohydrates. Okay? And being a Mexican, she's very slight, she doesn't have the fat deposits. So make sure you add an avocado. So those are all those type of things that we're trying to build her program. I'm trying to build her body back up. Amelia's building her tennis back up. So hopefully when she hits whenever she leaves, the 15th, the 19th, somewhere in there, December, she's ready to roll for at least 2 months. Because you gotta figure it's gonna be about 2 months before anything can happen again. So constantly having that idea, you know where the majors are. Where's she gonna play in between the majors? Where's home base gonna be? Is she gonna be home based in Austin, in Texas? Or is she gonna be home based is she gonna have a place in Europe? Is she gonna be in Barcelona? So you gotta look at all those things and how you plan is constantly moving backwards. And you can't always look at your intensity and your volume going all the same direction the whole time. If you go super high intensity and super high volume the whole time, you're doomed. You're bound to fail. You can't keep pushing like this and the volume and your intensity the same way. Okay, if we're like for us, we train for 3 hours in the morning. That's a lot of volume. Our intensity, so let's say our volume is like this, our intensity's got to kind of be like this. We gotta have short bursts of high intensity stuff, and we gotta let them recover, get water, do some different things. That's the reason they train the way that we train, the 30-30-30. So that there is that volume, there is the intensity level to it, and there's some lower time within that. Because if you run those two patterns up at the same time, they're gonna meet and they're gonna crash together. And that's when we get injury, burnout, and all those fun things.